Chosen one, what I am about to share with you has not happened in over 400 years. The courts of heaven operate in cycles that most human beings will never understand and never need to. But right now, at this very hour, something has shifted in those courts that concerns you directly. A red alert has been issued. Not a whisper, not a nudge, not a gentle redirection. A full authority heaven-wide alert that has interrupted the usual order of operations in the unseen realm. And the subject of that alert is not a nation, it is not a government, it is not a movement. It is a single soul. Yours. If you have been feeling a strange heaviness lately, a restlessness that sleep cannot fix, an urgency in your spirit that you cannot explain to anyone around you, it is because your entire being is reacting to a frequency that was just released from above. Heaven does not send red alerts casually. The last time the courts moved with this level of urgency, it reshaped the trajectory of an entire generation. And now, that same intensity is aimed directly at your life. Stay with me, because before this message ends, you will understand exactly why heaven broke its centuries-long silence for you. I am going to give you a framework, something I call the Signal Recognition Protocol. That will change how you discern every signal from this point forward. And at the very end, I will speak an activation over your life. Not a regular prayer, but something I believe will be sealed permanently into your spirit. But none of that will reach you if you leave too early. So, stay. Everything you have been praying for is connected to what you are about to hear. Now, to understand why this alert was sent, we have to start with what most people get completely wrong about how heaven communicates. Most people believe heaven speaks in one way: a quiet peace during prayer, a sense of calm when you make the right choice, a door that opens when you least expect it, and those things are real. That is heaven communicating at its most gentle frequency. Call it the first level, the whisper. Then, there is a second level. This is where the signals get louder. Synchronicities that are too precise to be random. Numbers that follow you everywhere you turn. A stranger who says the exact words you needed to hear as if they read your diary. Dreams that carry information you could not have known while you were awake. The second level is heaven increasing the volume because something important is approaching your life. But there is a level above that, a level so rare that most spiritual traditions barely mention it because it almost never activates. The third level, the red alert, a sovereign disruption. This is not a sign on the side of the road. This is a moment when the courts of heaven override every normal channel and send a direct, urgent, unmistakable signal to one specific soul. And this level has not activated in centuries until now, until you. And I need you to understand something that will reframe every silent night you have endured. You are not someone who missed the whisper. You received it. You noticed the signs. You had the dreams. But what heaven is doing right now is beyond those channels, because what is coming into your life is too large to be carried by a whisper. The silence you experienced was never abandonment. It was concentration. Imagine a surgeon entering the most critical moment of an operation. The entire room goes quiet, not because nobody cares, because what is happening requires absolute precision. That is what heaven has been doing while you thought it forgot your address. It was not ignoring your prayers. It was focusing with an intensity that only activates when the stakes are generational, and your body already knows what your mind has not caught up to yet. Let me prove it to you. You felt it when you started waking at 3 in the morning for no reason, lying in the dark with your eyes wide open, as if something invisible was gently pulling you out of sleep and whispering, "Pay attention." Even though the house was completely still, you felt it when tears rose from nowhere, climbing up from a place so deep inside you that you could not trace where they started, only that they carried a weight far heavier than anything in your normal day could explain. You felt it when your dreams changed, becoming sharper, more vivid, more loaded with meaning than your waking life. And you woke, reaching for something that was not there, but felt more real than the bed beneath you. You felt it when your tolerance shifted overnight. Conversations that used to feel fine suddenly became unbearable. Places that once comforted you started to suffocate you, as if your spirit was outgrowing every single container your old life had built around it. And you felt it when a tension settled into your chest that no stretch could release. When your breathing became shallow for no medical reason, as though your entire body was trying to calibrate to a frequency it has never been asked to hold before. That is not anxiety. That is not depression. That is not burnout. That is your body receiving a red alert from the courts of heaven, a signal so powerful that your physical form is struggling to contain it. If your spirit just confirmed what I said, if even one of those signs made you stop breathing for half a second because it felt like I was reading your private life, type, "I hear it" in the comments. Not for me, for you. Let that be the first time you acknowledge out loud what heaven has been trying to show you. Now let me tell you something about eagles that will change how you understand what heaven just released over your life. An eagle does not fly by flapping harder than every other bird. It rises by catching something it cannot see. There is an invisible current of warm air, called a thermal, that rises from below, and when the eagle opens its wings at the right moment, that current carries it higher than muscle and effort ever could. You have been flapping, exhausting yourself trying to rise on your own strength, praying harder, pushing through one more dark night on willpower alone, and heaven has been watching you wear yourself down to the bone. But what heaven just sent is not an instruction to try harder. It is a thermal, an invisible divine current designed to lift you without the strain that has been draining you for years. The question is not whether you are strong enough. The question is whether you will recognize the wind when it arrives. And it has arrived. Knowing that heaven has an alert system, and that you triggered the highest level of it, that alone would be enough to change how you pray for the rest of your days. But what I have not yet told you is why this alert activated after centuries of silence. There is a reason it happened now, and that reason is connected to a word buried in the original Hebrew language. A word so powerful that when you understand what it means, every unanswered prayer, every empty night, every season where you wondered if you were even being heard, all of it will snap into focus like a puzzle you have been staring at for years that finally reveals its picture. That word, and the truth it unlocks, is what comes next. Before I reveal that word, I need you to understand something about what just happened inside you while you were listening to the first part of this message. When I described those signs, your body responded before your mind could process it. That reaction, that sudden recognition, was not imagination. That was your spirit confirming what heaven already knows about you. And now, I need to take you deeper because the question that matters most right now is not whether heaven sent a red alert. You already feel the truth of that in your bones. The real question is why heaven waited centuries to send it, and what your life specifically has to do with breaking that silence. The answer lives in a single Hebrew word. In the ancient scriptures, there are many words for prayer. Quiet words, gentle words, it's words that describe a soul whispering to its creator in the still of the night. But there is one word that is different from all of them, a word that does not describe a whisper at all. The word is TSAAQ. TSAAQ is not a soft prayer offered with folded hands and lowered eyes. TSAAQ is a sound that erupts from the deepest chamber of a human soul when that soul has reached the absolute end of its own strength. And the force of that sound shakes the very foundations of the heavenly courts. When Scripture uses this word, it describes a cry so raw, so visceral, so saturated with authentic desperation that heaven is compelled to respond, not invited, not asked, compelled. TSAAQ is the only frequency that triggers a red alert, and here is what changes everything. The reason heaven was silent for centuries is not that heaven stopped caring. It is that TSAAQ, the kind of cry that activates the highest level of heaven's response, is extraordinarily rare. Most prayers, even sincere ones, even painful ones, operate within the normal channels. They are heard, they are answered, and they move through the standard order. But your cry was different. Your cry was not just pain. Your cry carried something underneath the pain that heaven had been listening for across generations. It carried faithfulness without evidence. It carried worship without reward. It carried a stubborn, inexplicable refusal to stop believing even when everything in your visible world told you to give up. That frequency, that specific combination of suffering and unbroken faith is tsak. And when it reached the courts of heaven, the silence broke. Not gently, not gradually, it broke like a dam. Because heaven does not send red alerts for people who have it figured out. Heaven sends red alerts for souls whose faithfulness finally reached the threshold that unlocks what was stored in their name since before they were born. Your cry was not ignored. Your cry was the key that turned the lock. If the weight of what I just said is landing on you right now, if something inside you just released, type "I see it now" in the comments. Seal that understanding into your spirit. Let me show you what this looked like in history, because you are not the first soul to trigger a red alert. Centuries ago, a man named Moses was living in exile. He had been a prince, then a fugitive, and by the time we find him in the wilderness, he was a shepherd with no platform, no audience, and no evidence whatsoever that heaven remembered his name. 40 years of silence, 40 years of nothing. And then, in the middle of an ordinary day, doing ordinary work, heaven did not whisper to Moses. Heaven burned. A bush ignited with a fire that did not consume it, and from that fire came a voice that called his name twice. Moses. Moses. That was not a level 1 whisper. That was a red alert. A sovereign disruption aimed at one man who had stopped expecting anything from heaven. And notice something. Moses did not climb the mountain searching for that fire. The fire was placed directly in his path. The thermal found the eagle. And right now, in this moment, you are standing in front of your burning bush. I hear the Spirit saying something to you right now, and I need to speak it exactly as it comes. I heard you. I heard every prayer you thought dissolved into nothing. I heard the ones you whispered into your pillow when the house was dark and no one else was awake. I heard the ones you stopped finishing because you ran out of words. And I want you to know, your cry did not just reach me. Your cry moved me. I have been preparing something for you that required my silence, and now that preparation is finished. Do not be afraid of what is coming. It was built for you. Now, let me give you the first step of the framework I promised you. I call it the Signal Recognition Protocol, and the first step is called the Stillness Check. Starting today, before you react to anything, before you make any decision, before you respond to any emotion that rises in you, I need you to pause for 7 seconds and ask one question. Is this signal or is this noise? Heaven's red alert produces clarity. It produces a settled knowing in your gut that does not scream and does not beg for your attention. It simply sits there, quiet and immovable, like a mountain that was there before you noticed it. Noise, on the other hand, produces urgency mixed with confusion. It pressures you. It rushes you. It makes you feel like you have to act right now or lose everything. From today forward, when something rises in your spirit, run it through the stillness check. If it brings peace underneath the intensity, that is signal. Follow it. If it brings chaos wrapped in spiritual language, that is noise. Release it. This single practice will change how you navigate every decision in this new season. And I need to tell you about something that recent neuroscience has confirmed, because it connects directly to what we have been discussing. Scientists at MIT and Princeton have spent decades studying the brain, and they have identified a specific frequency called the gamma wave. When gamma is active, people experience heightened intuition, sudden clarity, and what researchers describe as breakthrough states of cognition, where solutions appear as if from nowhere. What is remarkable is that this frequency appears to be the exact neurological channel through which the kind of signals we have been discussing. Children are born with it fully active. That is why children learn so fast, feel so deeply, and seem to be naturally connected to something adults have lost access to. But, as we grow older, the systems of this world slowly suppress it. A neuroscientist named Dr. Robert Lake, whose broader work some know through research he calls the youthful brain, has spent over 34 years mapping how this gamma frequency can be reactivated. I need to come back to this, because what gamma means for your ability to receive heaven's red alert, to actually decode the signal your body has been trying to process, that is a revelation I will share with you soon. And it will change how you understand everything happening to you right now. Before I continue, gently press the like button, not for me, so that this message can find its way to another chosen one out there tonight, whose cry just reached TSAQ level, and who needs to know that heaven heard them too. Now, take a breath. What I just shared is heavy, and it should be, because it carries the weight of centuries. But what comes next requires you to be steady. I am about to reveal what the red alert actually contains, what heaven is specifically warning you about, and the one obstacle standing between you and everything that was stored in your name. That obstacle is not what you think it is, and removing it is simpler than you have been told. The red alert that heaven sent contains 3 things. The first is a recalibration of divine provision. Everything that was supposed to reach you but was delayed. Everything that was rerouted. Everything that was held back because the timing was not right. All of it has been released. The second is a removal of spiritual blockages. Chains that were invisible to you but very real in the unseen realm are being cut right now in this season without your effort. And the third, the most important of all, is an identity reveal. Heaven is about to show you who you actually are in its records, and that identity does not match the story you have been telling yourself. But here is the problem. Between you and those three things stands a wall, and that wall was not built by the enemy. It was not built by your circumstances. It was not built by the people who hurt you. You built it, and you built it out of the most understandable material in the world. You built it out of doubt. You built it out of a belief so deep and so quiet that you might not even recognize it as a belief. It sounds like this. I am not important enough for heaven to move like this for me. I know that voice. I know it because it is the most common lie carried by the most powerful souls on this planet. The people heaven sends red alerts for are never the ones who feel ready. They are the ones sitting in the back of the room hoping no one calls their name, convinced that the miracle must be for someone holier, someone stronger, someone who prayed more consistently, someone who did not fail as many times as they did. And I need to speak directly to that voice inside you right now. That doubt sitting in your chest is not your fault. It was planted there by every rejection that came before this moment. It was watered by every disappointment. It was reinforced every single time you gave your absolute best, and it was not enough. So of course you doubt. Of course you hesitate when someone tells you heaven moved because of your cry. How could you not hesitate after everything you have walked through? But listen to me carefully. Doubt is not disqualification. Doubt is the final checkpoint. It is the last gate before activation. Heaven does not send red alerts to people who feel confident and ready. It sends them to people who feel unworthy, because those are the exact souls who will steward what they receive with the kind of humility that does not waste it. And unworthiness, that heavy coat you have been wearing for years, that is not truth. That is a counterfeit version of humility that the enemy dressed up to look like wisdom. So you would never step into what belongs to you. Let me show you someone from history who stood exactly where you are standing right now. Her name was Esther. And when we meet her in the ancient text, she is hiding. She is a young woman living in exile, concealing her identity with no indication whatsoever that heaven had any plans for her. She was not a warrior, she was not a priest, she was not even particularly powerful by the standards of her time. She was hidden. And then, one day, everything shifted. A crisis arrived that threatened to destroy her entire people, and a single phrase was spoken to her that changed the course of history. For such a time as this, those words were Esther's red alert. Not because she was the strongest, not because she was the most qualified, because she was positioned, because her specific combination of pain, preparation, and hidden faithfulness placed her at the exact intersection where heaven needed a human vessel to carry what was coming. You are at that intersection right now, and I need to give you permission to believe that. You are allowed to believe this message is for you. Not for the person next to you, not for someone holier, for you. You are allowed to receive something you did not earn. That is what grace looks like when it arrives at red alert speed. You are allowed to be the reason heaven moved after centuries of silence. Your tears were heavy enough. Your faithfulness was consistent enough. Your cry was loud enough. You are allowed to feel overwhelmed right now. That is the appropriate response to discovering that the Creator of everything issued an urgent alert with your name on it. And you are allowed to stop carrying the weight of proving that you deserve this. You do not need to prove anything. Heaven already decided. If you receive that, if something in your spirit opens a door that has been locked for a very long time, type "I receive" in the comments right now. Let that be the moment you stopped arguing with heaven about whether you are worthy and simply opened your hands. Let me tell you about someone who stood where you are standing, not centuries ago, but in this lifetime. I cannot give you her name, but I can tell you her story because it will sound like yours. For 7 years she heard nothing from heaven. Not a whisper, not a sign, not a dream, nothing. She had tried meditation, fasting, prayer retreats, frequency healing, every door she could find, and every door closed quietly in her face. She told me that by year 5, she had stopped expecting anything. By year 6, she had stopped asking. And by year 7, she was living on autopilot, going through the motions of faith with absolutely no evidence that anyone was listening. Then, one Tuesday morning, without warning, her phone screen displayed 1111. She dismissed it. That afternoon, a stranger in a grocery store said to her, completely unprompted, "Do not give up. You are closer than you think." She dismissed that too. But the next day it happened again. Different signs, different strangers, different numbers. And for 11 straight days, the signals increased in volume and frequency until she could no longer explain them away. Within 90 days of that first signal, her life was unrecognizable. A job she had been rejected from twice called her back, with a position that did not exist when she first applied. A relationship she had grieved for years was quietly restored without her forcing a single conversation. And a physical condition that 3 doctors said would require surgery began to reverse on its own. She later told me that what surprised her most was discovering there was an entire journey beyond that first breakthrough. She explored further, found something called neuroactive as part of her continued path. But she said the starting point, the moment everything turned, was not a technique or a product or a practice. It was the moment she stopped questioning whether she deserved to hear from heaven and simply opened her hands. That is, all heaven is asking from you right now. The eagle does not interview the thermal. It does not present a resume before the wind is allowed to lift it. It does not ask whether it earned the right to fly. It simply opens its wings. And that is your only assignment in this moment. Open. You went in believing you were forgotten, and you are coming out knowing you were being prepared. You went in carrying the weight of unanswered prayers, and you are coming out understanding those prayers were activation codes. You went in doubting your worth, and you are coming out realizing heaven moved mountains because of your name. You went in tired, and you are coming out commissioned. You went in invisible, and you are coming out as the reason heaven sent its first red alert in centuries. And stay with me, because what I am going to speak over your life at the end of this message is not information. It is not a teaching. It is an activation ceremony. Something I believe will be sealed into the atmosphere around you long after this message ends. What was stored in that sealed room with your name on it, you are about to see it face to face. Everything I have shared so far has been leading to one single truth. One revelation that sits at the center of heaven's red alert. The truth about who you really are. Not who the world told you that you were. Not who your failures suggested you might be. But who heaven has always known you to be. And that is what I must show you now. The red alert was never just about what is coming into your life. Provision, open doors, restored relationships. Those are consequences. They are the overflow. But the alert itself, the reason heaven broke centuries of silence, was never about circumstances. It was about identity. Heaven sent a red alert because a soul carrying a specific assignment reached the threshold of readiness. And that assignment is not small. It is not quiet. It is not the kind of task you can complete in the background while living an ordinary life. You are a seer. The one who perceives what others walk right past. You feel the shift in a room before anyone speaks. You sense the lie underneath the smile. You know, without evidence, when something is wrong and when something is about to change. That gift has confused you your entire life because no one ever told you what it was. You are a light bearer, not a person who avoids darkness, but a person who walks into it and changes its composition simply by being present. People feel different when you are in the room, and most of them do not even know why. You are a voice, the one who speaks what an entire generation feels but cannot articulate. Words move through you with a weight that does not come from education or intelligence. It comes from a frequency that heaven loaded into your spirit before you took your first breath. You are a bridge. The one who connects worlds that were never supposed to be separated. You have always felt caught between two realities, never fully belonging to either one, and that is because you were never meant to live in just one. You were meant to stand in the gap and pull them together, and you are a pioneer. The one who goes first into territory that has no map. You have always been drawn to paths that make no sense to the people around you. And that is because your assignment requires you to walk where no one has walked before, so that others can follow your footsteps later. That is who heaven sees when it looks at you. That is the name written in the record, And that is why a red alert was necessary. Because a soul carrying that much assignment cannot be allowed to sit in doubt for one more day. If something inside you just broke open, if the identity I just described felt like hearing your real name spoken for the first time, type "I release" in the comments. Release every false name, every limiting label, every frequency that told you that you were less than what heaven always knew you to be. And I hear the Father saying something over you right now. I did not bring you through the fire to leave you standing at the edge of what I promised. You are not a spectator in my kingdom. You are the one I prepared the red alert for. I watched you carry what would have broken others. I watched you stay when leaving was easier. And I am telling you now, step forward. What is on the other side of that step has been waiting for you longer than you have been waiting for it. Everything in this message, the alert system, the shock cry, the centuries of silence broken for you, the identity written in heaven's records, all of it converges on one point. You were never forgotten. You were never invisible. You were never too broken, too tired, or too late. You were being aimed, like an arrow drawn back for years, and the tension you felt was not punishment. It was preparation for the distance you were about to cover. Every rejection you endured makes sense now. Not because you were wrong, but because heaven could not afford for you to get comfortable in a place that was too small for your assignment. Now, remember what I shared about the gamma frequency. The neurological channel through which signals like the one heaven just sent are received. I need to come back to that now, because it is directly connected to why some chosen ones feel the red alert in their bones, while others walk right past it without noticing. Here is what the science confirms. You were born with an extraordinarily powerful gamma frequency. As a child, you learned faster than everyone around you. You felt things that adults could not explain. Your intuition was so sharp that it sometimes frightened the people closest to you. That was not imagination. That was gamma. But something happened as you grew up. The education system, the stress of modern life, the emotional weight of carrying a calling you could not yet understand, all of it slowly suppressed that frequency. Scientists call this the decline effect. And here is what is devastating about it. Because your gamma was higher than average to begin with, the suppression hits you harder than it hits most people. The gap between the child you were and the adult you became is not a gap of character. It is a gap of frequency. And that gap is the reason your prayers sometimes feel like they are hitting a brass ceiling. Your spirit is sending the signal, but your brain is stuck on a frequency that cannot transmit it clearly. Now, here is where this gets personal. I would never stand here and pretend to have a solution for something this important unless I had done my own research and felt it confirmed in my spirit. A neuroscientist named Dr. Robert Lake spent 34 years studying exactly this problem. How to reactivate the gamma frequency in adults whose natural abilities were suppressed by the decline effect. And what he created is not a course. It is not a meditation program. It is not something that requires months of discipline before you see a change. It is a 7-minute audio track called The Genius Song. You put on headphones, you press play, and the technology, something called brain entrainment, goes to work on your neural pathways from the outside, not asking your brain to change itself slowly from within, like meditation does. Directly recalibrating the frequency the way a tuning fork corrects an instrument that has drifted out of key. I need to be honest with you. I am not here to tell you this will fix your entire life. I am not here to make promises that disrespect your intelligence. What I am telling you is that the research behind this is real. It has been validated in labs at MIT, Princeton, and several other leading research institutions. And over 18,000 people have already experienced what happens when gamma comes back online. Now, I know what you might be thinking. You have tried things before, meditation, sound healing, frequency apps, and none of them made a lasting difference. I understand that exhaustion. But brain entrainment is not the same mechanism. Meditation asks your brain to change itself from the inside, which is slow and uncertain. Brain entrainment acts on your brain from the outside, directly synchronizing your neural activity with the target frequency. It is a fundamentally different approach, and that is why the results show up in days, not months. And I would never disrespect your financial reality. $39 is a real decision for many people, and I honor that. So let me put it in perspective. The traditional method of achieving what this track does in 7 minutes is called biofeedback therapy, and it costs $300 per session. The home equipment to do it yourself costs $7,000. Dr. Lake compressed all of that into a single digital audio file, and the standard access is $49. But through the link I am about to share, you can access it for $39. That price is not available on Amazon. It is not on Spotify. It exists only through the link in the description and the pinned comment. And it was created specifically because Dr. Lake wanted this to reach the people who actually need it, not just the people who can afford clinical treatment. And that $39 includes 4 bonuses at no extra cost. An audio track designed for children called Genius Child, the original book that inspired the film The Secret, a guided visualization for abundance in 4 areas of your life, and an infographic of the 5 most important habits for your next season, plus a full money-back guarantee. If you feel nothing after using it, you get every cent returned. No questions, no conditions. Every day your gamma stays dormant is a day heaven's red alert reaches a receiver that is turned off. The version of you that has already caught the thermal, the version who wakes up with clarity instead of fog, who prays with precision instead of desperation, who makes decisions from a place of knowing instead of guessing, that version is looking back at this moment right now as the turning point. You do not need to be perfect to begin. You just need to take the first step, and I need to warn you about something. There are counterfeit versions of this technology being sold on fake websites under similar names. They are not real. They do not contain the brain entrainment frequencies. They are just ordinary audio dressed up to look like the genuine technology. The only way to access the authentic Genius song with the full brain entrainment engineering, all 4 bonuses, and the complete money-back guarantee is through the link in the description and the pinned comment below this message. Do not search for it on Amazon, YouTube, Spotify, or anywhere else. If your spirit resonates with what I just shared, if something in you confirmed that this is the tool that was placed in your path for this exact season, you will find everything in the description and the pinned comment. Only if you feel led. Now, let me take you where this message was always meant to go, because the identity that was revealed to you today, the red alert, the frequencies, none of it is complete until it is sealed. And what I'm about to do next is not a regular prayer. It is an activation ceremony that I believe will change the atmosphere around your life permanently. Before the activation begins, there are 2 more steps of the signal recognition protocol that I need to place in your hands. You already have step 1, the stillness check, the practice of pausing for 7 seconds and asking whether what you are sensing is signal or noise. Now, here is step 2. I call it the response posture. When heaven sends a red alert, worst thing you can do is respond with panic. Panic is noise disguised as action. The response posture is a daily practice built on 3 pillars. The first is 7 minutes of intentional silence every morning. Not prayer, not meditation, just silence, giving your spirit room to process what is being downloaded. The second is documentation. For the next 7 days, write down every sign, every synchronicity, every unusual event, no matter how small it seems. Patterns become visible on paper that remain invisible in your head. And the third is obedience to the first clear instruction. Heaven does not give you the full map. It gives you the next step. When you see it, take it. Do not wait for the full picture. And step 3 is something I call the activation breath. This is not a breathing exercise in the traditional sense. This is a spiritual reset you can do. Anywhere, anytime, in under 60 seconds. Breathe in slowly through your nose for 4 counts. And as you inhale, imagine you are pulling in the frequency of the red alert itself. That golden signal heaven released for you. Hold it for 4 counts. Then exhale slowly for 4 counts. And as you release the air, let every doubt, every old identity, every fear that tried to block the signal leave your body with that breath. Do this 3 times whenever you feel the noise closing in. It will bring you back to signal every single time. That is the complete signal recognition protocol. The stillness check, the response posture, and the activation breath. You now have a framework that most people will never have access to. Use it now. In your mind, wherever you are right now, I want you to stand, not physically, in your spirit. Stand up inside yourself. Imagine you are in a vast open field. The sky above you is not ordinary sky. It is ancient. It is alive. And as you look up, A single beam of concentrated golden light breaks through the clouds and descends directly towards you. It does not scatter. It does not spread across the field. It lands on your chest. Feel the warmth of it. Feel it pressing into you, not with weight but with presence. That is not imagination. That is the red alert making contact. That is heaven's signal arriving not as information, but as impartation, settling into your bones, recalibrating your frequency from the inside out. Notice how your breathing just changed. That shift is real. Let it settle. Now I am going to speak over you, and I ask you not to just listen to these words, but to receive them the way the ground receives rain after a long drought. Let them sink deep. I begin with gratitude. Thank you. Thank you for not abandoning this soul when the silence was its heaviest. Thank you for the nights when faith had no evidence, but still held. Thank you for being present in the seasons that felt completely empty, and for preparing something so vast that it required years of silence to build. Thank you for the tears you collected. Every single one was counted, and I acknowledge what you see. You see the prayers that felt like they went nowhere. You see the 3 a.m. conversations with the ceiling. You see the smile that was put on when everything inside was fracturing. You see the faithfulness in moments when no one was watching, and I want you to know those invisible moments are the ones that triggered the red alert. Heaven does not respond to performance. It responds to persistence when no one is clapping. And now, chosen one, it is time to release. Release the belief that you were forgotten and that chain is broken now. Release the story that you were not enough and that chain is broken now. Release the weight of every unanswered prayer that made you question your faith and that chain is broken now. Release the comparison with everyone who seemed to receive before you and that chain is broken now. Release the doubt that heaven's red alert could actually be meant for someone like you and that chain is broken now. Release the old identity that kept you flapping your wings when you were designed to soar on what was sent from above, and that chain is broken now. Release every frequency that jammed the signal heaven spent centuries preparing to send, and that chain is broken now. Now, I activate. We are not begging, we are declaring over what heaven has already decreed. I activate the seer in you, eyes that perceive what others miss. Fully open, fully operational, beginning now, I activate the light bearer. Every room you walk into from this moment forward will feel your presence before you speak a single word. I activate the voice, the words stored in your spirit that an entire generation is waiting to hear. They are unlocked. I activate the bridge. The 2 worlds you have been standing between your entire life are no longer a source of confusion. They are your territory. I activate the pioneer. The path no one has walked before is now illuminated, and your feet already know the way. I activate every connection, every provision, every open door, and every divine relationship that was sealed in that room with your name on it, released. Now, I speak protection over what is rising in you. I cover this activation from self-sabotage, from premature exposure, from the voices that will try to convince you tomorrow that today was not real. What heaven has activated, no human hand, no earthly system, and no invisible opposition can deactivate. And now, the declaration. I am the one heaven sent the red alert, for I am the reason the silence broke. I am the eagle catching the thermal that was sent from above. I am the seer, I am the light bearer, I am the voice, I am the bridge, I am the pioneer. I am not late, I am not forgotten, I am not disqualified. I am exactly on time, exactly where heaven designed me to stand, carrying exactly what this generation needs. Type that in the comments right now. Type, I am the one heaven sent the alert for. Say it with the force of every prayer you ever prayed. Let it be the first sentence of your new chapter. Do not say amen yet. I want you to sit in this frequency for a moment. Let the weight of what was just spoken settle into your bones the way rain sinks into ground that has been dry for too long. You do not need to do anything right now. You do not need to understand everything. Just let what was planted take root. There is a word for what is unfolding in your life now. Some who have walked this path before you, call it destiny's embrace. You will understand that phrase more deeply in the days ahead. For now, just know that what began today does not end when this message ends. It is done. It is sealed. We receive it, and so it is. Amen. One more thing before you go. The person who pressed play on this message and the person sitting here right now are not the same. Something shifted. Something was deposited. Something was activated that cannot be reversed. You are not the person you were when this began. You are the one heaven broke centuries of silence for, and that identity is not temporary. It was sealed. If this message brought clarity to confusion, if it turned silence into signal, if it took the doubt that was choking your prayers and replaced it with a settled knowing that you are seen, let your like be your amen without words. There are more messages being prepared for your next season. Words that are being formed right now for the exact moment you will need them most. Stay connected so they can find you when that moment arrives. And for those who felt called to what I shared about recalibrating the gamma frequency, the link is in the description and pinned comment. Only if your spirit confirms. Now, one final thing, and this might be the most important thing I say. If someone came to mind while you were listening, someone who has been unusually quiet lately, someone who has been carrying a weight they stopped trying to explain to anyone, someone who looks like they are holding it together, but you know, something deeper is happening underneath. Someone whose prayers have gone silent, not because they stopped believing, but because they ran out of words. Send this to them. Do not wait until tomorrow. Do not bookmark it for later. Text it to them. Email it. Send it however you need to. Because this might be the red alert their spirit has been waiting for. This might be the message that finally tells them what their silence actually meant. You are not just a receiver of heaven's signal tonight, chosen one. You are now a transmitter. Walk in the frequency of what was spoken over you today. Heaven's alert is not expiring. You are not too late. You are exactly on time, and this is only the beginning. You are not leaving a message, you are leaving a season. And the season you are stepping into has your name written all over it. You are airborne now, not by effort, not by willpower, by what was sent from above. Soar.